Today, we're going to be discussing the Kona Process 134, a playful yet very fast trail bike. But before I get into this review, I just want to give a special shout out to Geoff for letting me borrow this beautiful bike. The Process 134 is made by Kona, a very well known and respected bike company that's based out of the Pacific Northwest. Kona was founded in 1988 by Jacob Helbron and Dan Gerhard, which they named the company after the Hawaiian island of Kailua Kona, which has a special place in the heart of both Jacob and Dan. And with the help of legendary mountain bike rider Joe Murray, Kona created a range of custom steel hardtails. Kona also was the first bike brand to produce a range of sloping top tube design mountain bike frames, which earned the reputation of designing durable, free-ride mountain bikes. Since then, Kona has an expanded range of mountain, commuter, cyclocross, and electric bikes. The Process 134 frame is made with either aluminum or carbon, but the bike we're looking at today is the carbon CR/DL version. The frame tubing has a beautiful clean shape. It's a very subtle silver color. This is the 2020 frame, but the geometry is identical to the 2022 model. It's offered in sizes small through extra large. The 134 has a very reasonable 66-degree head angle, super short 427mm chainstays, and a relatively shorter reach. They tend to fit a little on the small side, so if you're in between sizes, choose a larger one. I'm only 5'10", so I was right in the middle of the medium and the large, and the test bike was a large and it fit perfectly. The bike being reviewed today is not the stock build, but I will go over the stock build of the CR/DL later in the video. But for now, here's the list of the components. The fork is the Marzocchi Bomber Z1 with 140mm of travel. The rear shock is a Marzocchi Bomber CR with a Cane Creek spring. It has factor wheels with a 30mm internal width. There's also Maxxis DHR2s on both the front and rear with a width of 2.4 inches. It comes with SRAM GX crank arms with a 34-tooth chainring. It also has SRAM XO1 12-speed with a 50-tooth cassette. It has TRP Trail Evo brakes, a 1-up V2 210mm dropper, and the cockpit is DD handlebars with a 760mm width, ODI Elite Pro grips, and a P&W loam lever. The climbing on the 134 is definitely one of the bike's strongest attributes. Both my mountain bikes are enduro bikes, so I'm used to having bikes that are okay at climbing, but they aren't that great. So being able to climb with the Process was amazing. The seating position is very comfortable, and the 50-tooth cassette made sure that I never got too tired on the climbs. Even on steep technical climbs, there's no wandering in the front end, and you don't have to move your body weight around to get grip. You keep a fairly neutral body position, and you can just put the power down. While climbing one of the steeper routes on my test loop, I was surprised how much I was actually enjoying climbing, which is a statement I never thought I'd hear come out of my mouth. I found myself taking the harder lines that I typically struggle on my enduro bikes, but the 134 just ate them up. And it's not just steep, punchy climbs where the 134 excels. On long, pedally climbs, there's almost zero suspension bob. But now that we've talked about the climbing, let's talk about what most people love about mountain biking, and that's the downhills. So I've ridden a lot of mountain bikes in my lifetime, but I've never ridden a trail bike that's as fast or as capable as this bike. This bike straight up rips downhill, which quite honestly really surprised me. When you look at the geometry of the Process, there's nothing about it that would indicate the speed that's capable of. Due to the rather normal 66-degree head angle, short chainstays, and a compact wheelbase, I was expecting the bike to be really fun on flowy trails, and it is. But what I wasn't expecting is how stable it was at high speeds. I couldn't believe how well this bike handled going almost 30 miles an hour in single track with bigger bumps. The small bump compliance was incredible, and it could handle big hits just like my enduro bike. I actually believe this bike has less rear end chatter than my nuke-proof Mega 290, which is saying a lot. Now, was it due to being a superior bike, or is it because of the coil shock? Honestly, I don't know, but I'm seriously contemplating a coil for my Mega. With the combination of short chainstays and a compact wheelbase, this bike rails corners. The 134 is extremely flickable, and it switches directions with the best mountain bikes out there. And the amount of front grip on this bike is incredible. It got to the point where I was intentionally going into corners with bad body position. I was either riding way too far off my rear wheel or putting most of my weight over the bars just to see if I can unsettle the front end. And even when I could get the front end to start losing grip, the bike never faltered. It felt like the front end would get a little squirrely, then a moment later, the grip would come back. And while the grip, cornering, climbing, speed, and just pure fun of this bike is amazing, there are a couple of minor things that did bother me. First, which I admit ahead of time is very, very nitpicky, is the water bottle location. It's just way too high in the frame and didn't leave a lot of space to remove the bottle. I know it's not a very big deal, but it was inconvenient, and if it was my personal bike, I'd run a Fidlock bottle just to eliminate the issue. The last thing that surprised me in a bad way was that the bike wasn't as poppy off jumps and trail features as I was anticipating. Now it's still a very fun bike, don't get me wrong. I was just expecting a little more springiness when jumping off stuff. But I spoke to the owner about this, and he said that the bike used to be a little more poppy when it had the regular air shock on it. But once he installed a coil shock, it lost a little bit of the attribute. But he also said that after installing the coil, the rear end got much better grip, small bump compliance, and it handles big hits much better, which I think is a really good compromise. So now that we've discussed how this bike rides, let's discuss cost. So what you see here is a cost versus value analysis that I created. It's a breakdown of all the parts of the bike so you can determine how much it would cost to build this bike from scratch and determine a value based on the sum of its parts. And one note before we go over this is that the bike in the video is a custom build. So for the breakdown, I'm going to use the stock build for the most expensive 134, since it's the closest build equivalent to the custom build that I'm testing. So at the time of this recording, the complete build and price for the 2022 Process 134 CR-DL is $7,000. And what we're looking at right now is a breakdown of the total cost of all the parts on the stock complete bike if you were to purchase separately. And as you can see, it would cost you over $7,900 to build it yourself. So to put it simply, that means that you save almost $1,000 from buying the bike whole, as opposed to buying all the parts individually and building it yourself. But please keep in mind that this is only an estimate, and prices can vary on costs at the time of purchase and availability. Overall, this bike is amazing. I couldn't believe how comfortable and confident I felt from the moment I put my leg over it. Before riding the 134, I thought the Process was overpriced and overhyped. Is it expensive? Yes. Is it overpriced? Not according to my analysis. Is it overhyped? Absolutely not. This bike made me not only a believer of the praise the 134 gets, but now I really want one. Thank you so much for watching this review. And if you have any questions, if there's anything you feel that I missed, please comment below. And if you enjoyed this review, maybe consider subscribing. Also, if you have a Process 134, let me know how you feel about the bike. Thank you so much, and have a great one.